review the flow that I frequently give for home exercise programs. I am not going to do the exact number of repetitions for each one of the exercises. You can pause the video if you want to stop and do your reps, if you want to be following along as you do yours. I'm just going to keep the video really brief and go through each one and just do a couple so that the video doesn't get too long. So for the flow, it's designed as it is 1 through 13 to start from the ground and end in an appropriate posture and muscle activation. So that's a nice way to start your day. If you're using this to wind down at night, then you do the opposite. You start at the bottom of the list and work your way to the top as kind of a way to do it in reverse order to be more calming. So each one is when it starts with the pelvic breath, and this one you're laying on your back, and when you breathe in, the pelvic floor relaxes, and when you breathe out, it has a gentle contraction. Of course, make sure that contract and relax are appropriate for your home exercise program. Not everyone does a contraction on the way out, but if I've instructed you to do the contraction on the way out, then please add that. If you're still working on the relaxation component, then just relax on the breath in and the breath out. That's how you individualize it for you. So you start with at least 10, you're laying on your back, and when you breathe in, make sure you're breathing into the sides of the ribs as well as the back. So when I say breathe in, I'm actually, what I mean is we're breathing into your back and your sides, and then when you exhale, it just, everything softens, but the pelvic floor draws in. And you're laying flat for that. And so that's an easy way to do the breaths here. And then we transition, when I say posterior pelvic tilt, when you lay in neutral, there should be a gap underneath your lumbar spine. So when we're tilting, we're doing the same breath where you inhale and everything fills, and then when you exhale, you flatten the low back against the surface you're laying on. So you inhale and you exhale, and you inhale and you exhale. Obviously, I'm moving really quickly here, but I just wanted to show you the motion of going from neutral spine, where pubic bone is flat and rib cage is flat. So rib cage and pubic bone should both be flat with a space under your back with a little bit of natural variation for body shapes. And so that is a posterior pelvic tilt. So you're just gently rocking back and forth based on your spinal mobility and the natural curvature of your spine. Bent knee fallouts from here are continuing to follow the breath pattern where you inhale and you exhale, and you inhale and you exhale, and both of my knees are moving. I know that's a little bit hard to see in the video with my black pants. And again, I'm moving faster than you may move. This is double bent knee fallout. You may also have in your program to do single, where one leg stays still and the other one comes up, and then this one stays still and the other drops down. As you do that, the pelvis should be staying very, very stable and in neutral. So that is single leg fallout. This one is double leg fallout. Generally, we start with double, move to single. You can do both in your program or one or the other. So that covers number 3 and number 4. And then with low trunk rotation, we're still in the same movement. Inhale, legs go to one side, rib cage and shoulder blades stay on the ground. And when we exhale, we're trying to picture bringing the opposite rib and hip together. So we're using our this side, our obliques to pull back up. And then the opposite is true. Let me get my arm out of the way. Where you drop to the other side. And now, so my knees are to my left side. I'm going to use my left, picturing bringing my left hip bone to my right rib, and it pulls from the stomach back in. So as you move back and forth, this can be done as a continuous motion, or you can hang out here for a minute and let the knees, you can let the knees fall to the side as more of a stretch. If it's comfortable for you, you can also bring a leg out and get a little bit of IT band if that feels good for you too. So now we're on to number 6, where we roll to a side. I'll just show you one side, but you will do both. You can support your head with your hand if it doesn't bother your neck. You can drop your head all the way down, but what you're gonna want to make sure is your hip bones are level. You don't wanna have too much shortening of this space when this hip bone goes up a little higher. Make sure that stays down so that you have a little bit of space in this side body and your spine is straight. Clams, you can adjust where your knees are for comfort, but essentially they are slightly more open than 90 degrees, and it's a simple lift and lower, keeping the pelvis itself forward and still. So we don't want to be rocking backward, and only go as high as you feel like you can keep that pelvis stable. So even if you're lifting this far, that's fine, as long as we're not shifting. And then again, you can move your legs to what's appropriate for you. It's lift lower, and you can do a normal breathing pattern, or if you want to add, you exhale, inhale, then you can do that as well too. This shouldn't be strenuous enough that you need really a breath pattern of involving the pelvic floor, inhale and exhale, so that's optional. Do both sides for your clams, and then we move on to, from this spot onto all fours. So from here, cat-cow, make sure, or cat-camel, whatever you want to call it, make sure your arms are under your shoulders, your knees are under your pelvis, and we're trying to get a full arch. So head comes down, bum tucks, back arches, head comes down but not smashed. And then the opposite is true. We're trying to get as much of the upper back and as well as the lower back. We're trying to get tons of motion in the spine in both directions. You can move as quickly or slowly as you want to on that. You can hold certain spots. That one should feel super good. If it's painful, then make a smaller range of motion. You're already here for hydrants on number 8. Same position with the shoulders over the wrists. And it's hydrant because that's kind of what it looks like. You'll be lifting the leg on a diagonal. This activates the glutes. Pelvis does not move. So if you see yourself rocking, that's actually a fine exercise to be opening the opposite hip. So if you want to be lifting, that's okay, but what you're doing is the opposite hip opener. If you're trying to get the glute on the lifting leg, then the pelvis needs to stay still. So it's a little bit of a diagonal, and we lift and we lower. And if you want to add the breath patterns, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. The low belly stays firm, not clenched, but supported. From here, pelvic floor stretch or child's pose. So child's pose is straight back in a stretch. Pelvic floor stretch, knees are a bit wide. We have an arch similar to that section of the cat-cow. We drop to the elbows. You can drop all the way down. You can drop all the way down onto, you can tuck your arms. You can be on your forearms. This should be super relaxing with your bum in the air. And you can change the angle of the feet to get more of a stretch. You'll move your feet away from each other. That one you can spend as much time in as you want to. It's pretty relaxing. It unloads the pelvis because it turns it upside down. So you should feel the pelvic floor really relaxing in that position. And then you can see how I just moved from that position up to kneeling. If it bothers you to be sitting, if it bothers your knees to be sitting back on your feet, you can be in a seated position, but this just makes a smoother transition to the next one. I'll show you on a little bit of an angle, but you of course can stay facing the way you were. What it does in sitting is to keep the pelvis from moving. So as you do side bending, we go up and over, and we're lengthening this side, not so much shortening this side. That's a side bend. Of course, you'll do both sides. Take your time. Rotation, ribs stay in, pelvis stays stable, and we twist like you're wringing out a towel. And of course, you do the other side too. You can hold at the end of these, or again, you can keep it as a continuing motion, or both. From here, so again, if being on your knees bothers you, then just don't, or sit on a yoga block or a pillow, or be on your feet. But it does transition nicely to the next one, which is the roll up, where you just tuck your toes underneath you. And this may cut me out of the frame a little bit, so I apologize. As you pop your feet underneath you, we start with the pelvis is still tucked, and you roll one vertebrae at a time up, coming up last, and then you go back down, starting at the chin, upper body first, then the low back, and then you drop all the way down. So see how, I'll go up and down a couple of times, you go at your own pace, but you see how the arms basically follow the body, and then do a little shoulder shrug, go back down, arms follow the body, hang out down here as long as you want, let the head relax, shake it out, and then roll back up. And at the end, give a nice shoulder roll, and that's how you start your day ready for posture for you to stand all day. If you want to do the opposite, you start with the shoulder roll, do a few rolls ups and downs, go through the sequence in the opposite direction so that you end in the pelvic breath, which is a nice way to bring it down for the day too. So it's really versatile. Modify any of these things as needed. Each program is going to be pretty individual for each person. I just wanted to get something out there pretty quickly so that you could follow along as needed. Please let me or your other therapist know if you have any questions.